Hello everybody and welcome back to the Asus PC DIY YouTube channel. This is JJ once again, and I'm very excited to bring you guys an overview on the new Asus RT-87U as well as 87R. Now these two routers are based off of the current generation 802.11ac based specification. But what makes them truly unique is a brand new set of hardware design specifications and design implementations that allow them to jump into the next generation of Wave 2 based 802.11ac routers. Now when we step up into this bracket, these routers are going to be offering you unquestionably the best range, fastest throughput, and the overall best storage performance of any 802.11ac wireless router that's currently in the marketplace. In addition to that, the feature and functionality set that has been incorporated within the firmware or the operating system within this router is going to be extremely feature packed, and for you users that are really looking for the overall best functionality that is available right now in a consumer enthusiast router, you're definitely going to be interested in checking out what types of features and functions we've introduced into this generation of the Asus WRT firmware. Now, as always, in this overview, we're going to be giving you a lot of information regarding the overall specifications, the design, the features and functionality, and a whole lot more regarding this router, and helping you understand where it sits in the relation to other high-end 802.11ac wireless routers that are in the marketplace, as well as how it can complement your usage model and your type of usage environment if you're going to be looking for a new high-performance 802.11ac router. So with that, let's first find out a bit more about the overall design and the key specifications of the Asus RT-87U and 87R. Okay, so before we get into the overall design and specifications of the 87U, there's a couple of other important things to keep in mind in general. Now, when we talk about key specifications, these specifications have to be put into the context of where does it fit in the relation of other 802.11ac wireless routers that exist in the marketplace. Well, Asus has been a market leader when it comes to 802.11ac and offers the widest range of 802.11ac routers that's currently in the marketplace. And we actually have two of the highest performing 802.11ac wireless routers right here in front of me, the current RT-AC86U and the current RT-68U. Now both these units already offer fantastic range and great overall throughput, as well as actually overall very solid based storage performance, although the AC66 is only limited to USB 2 while the 68 incorporated USB 3. So what makes the 87U so different? There's actually quite a number of differences. First and foremost, both these routers are actually based off of chipsets that actually are referred to as a Wave 1 or first generation 802.11ac. Now why is this important? Well, the first generation of 802.11ac definitely offered great throughput, great performance, and great range, as we noted. But the next generation is going to be offering a whole slew of number of improvements to be able to even give you better range, better throughput, and better performance all the way around. And the 87U is the first consumer router on the market to introduce a Wave 2 capable chipset. Specifically, it's utilizing Quantenna's newest 4x4 capable based chipset. Now what I mean by 4x4, as you can see, the unit actually has 4 antennas for 4 transmit and 4 receive capability. Now this is actually something that's very special because there are other routers on the marketplace which actually might feature 4 antennas or maybe even greater than that, but they actually are not 4x4 capable platforms. You may see a router that actually might have 4 antennas, but its chipset really only allows for 3 of those antennas to be active at one single time, and the other antenna gets actually rotated depending on how the firmware and a couple of other design parameters get implemented. Newer routers that are also coming out of the market from other competitors might feature maybe even up to 6 antennas, but what they're doing is they may be incorporating 2 antenna-based configurations for the same 802.11ac based chipset. In this respect, it doesn't actually allow for the higher concurrent-based throughput that would be offered on the 87U, as well as the improved reception sensitivity that a 4x4 based antenna configuration offers. Now why is this important? It's very important because what we've actually seen in our analysis and testing is that due to the improved reception sensitivity that we have by a 4x4 based client, you don't have to be limited to only a 4x4 based client to get the improved throughput and overall performance. In our actually testing, we've actually found that even with single x1 based clients, as well as x2 and x3 clients, we've had better range and better throughput and overall better performance. This is extremely important because the majority of the devices that you have, whether it's going to be a smartphone, a tablet, a notebook, a desktop, or any number of other Wi-Fi enabled devices with 802.11ac can receive an improved experience with the 87U compared to previous generation 3x3 base capable 802.11ac based chipsets. Now, in addition to it being this Wave 2 capable router and being the world's first 4x4 811AC based chipset, it also features a number of advanced 811AC technologies. First and foremost, we have support for an upcoming technology that will be multi-user MIMO. Now, multi-user MIMO is not currently enabled, but it is 100% hardware ready and will be enabled through a future upcoming update. The great thing about this technology, though, is it will improve other aspects of overall signal reception and overall transmission performance for your wireless devices as those devices come to the market. And you're going to start seeing those devices come to the market sometime in late Q3 of this year, as well as Q4 in products such as in smartphones and in tablets. Now, in addition to this, the router also incorporates advanced beamforming technology. In previous generations, beamforming was an optional, non-standardized technology specification that could significantly improve the overall reception performance of many clients, but had varying levels of implementation. With 811AC based design chipsets, they actually featured a more standardized form of beamforming. But there were different types. One's referred to as an implicit, and the other one's referred to as an explicit. And depending on the chipset and a couple other factors, it may not always been 100% enabled, and also had to be supported through the client adapter. So the device that you were connecting to the router had to support it. Now, Asus has actually worked extensively to be able to support on this router both implicit and explicit beamforming, and has been tied in inherently into the design and development of this router. This is part of the reason why it's been able to offer outstanding range and throughput performance. In actual our testing, we've been able to exceed 5,000 square feet of coverage from the router, and actually overall throughput in excess of 900, almost 1 gigabit space of wireless throughput performance. Really impressive stuff when you consider that we're talking about extremely high numbers that before would have really only been possible through 10100 or gigabit Ethernet based connectivity. Now, outside of the 4x4, the multi-user MIMO, and the beamforming, we also have support for Broadcom's TurboCram technology. TurboCram is a great technology as it allows us to improve the throughput performance for 2.4 gigahertz based connections. Now, historically, 2.4 is going to offer us the furthest range, but at the detriment of generally offering lower throughput than our 5 gigahertz based connection. While TurboCram will never allow you to receive the same performance that you would have from a 5 gigahertz based connection, it does allow for a sizable increase in the overall 2.4 gigahertz performance, and the 87U is packing that inside of its hardware to be able to enable that for TurboCram supported clients. So all the way around, if we take a look at what's the most feature complete router that exists in the marketplace as of right now, supporting all the current advanced 811AC wireless specifications, the 87U is that unit. In addition to that, Asus is also the only vendor that offers such a complete product portfolio in its client adapters that also comparably support many of these advanced features and functions, whether they happen to be beamforming or TurboCram or other key technologies to give you the best range, throughput, and performance. Now, from a design and specification standpoint, there's a whole lot more that's actually underneath the hood here, and we're going to go ahead and go into a little bit more about this. So diving a little bit even further into the design and the features and specifications, we want to understand a bit about actually how routers are designed and how they affect the overall connectivity that the router has to offer. When you traditionally look at a router, you have a lot of different connections. You've got the wireless-based connections, which are 2.4 and 5 gigahertz if it's a dual-band router, and with pretty much every single 811AC-based router on the market, they're all inherently dual-band, supporting 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. The only difference is going to be how many streams do they actively support, with the majority of them being 3, the 87U being 4, and some of the more entry-level solutions being a 2-stream based unit. Now, outside of your wireless connections, you also have physical LAN connections, such as these right here, where you can see we've got 4 gigabit Ethernet ports. Then you have USB 3 and you've got USB 2. Now, not all 811AC wireless routers will have USB 3, some may be limited to USB 2, such as we have here on this model. But if we were to go ahead and take these units apart and we were to take a look at the actual PCB board, so the board that has all the key components on it that actually power all the aspects of the router, we would actually find a chipset, a CPU, And what the CPU does is it actually processes everything. It takes in all the different input and processing commands and all the different routing that occurs in a router. And especially as now we're getting to more complex aspects of what a router can do in terms of not just enabling your overall wireless connectivity, but also serving maybe as a offline storage device, VPN functionality, parental controls, quality of service optimizations, and a lot more functionality. The processors actually need to become faster and faster and faster. And actually not that long ago, we actually had to move over from single core based processors to dual core based processors in the highest end types of routers that are on the market. But even with those dual core based processors, they're actually still a single processor. So when you actually take a look at, let's say, the router, that single processor, take for instance here in this 68U or in this 66U, is shared between the wireless performance for the 2.4, the 5 gigahertz, the LAN ports, as well as the USB 3 and the USB 2, as well as also the WAN processing that has to occur. So when you kind of take into consideration all that, the actual processor plays a pretty big role at the overall total performance. And there's also a level of concurrent-based performance that has to be factored in. Now, every single one of these connections has a theoretical peak level of performance, whether it's USB 2 or USB 3, the 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, the 2.4 gigahertz, the Ethernet connection, and the more of these that you simultaneously use, the more that it actually brings down the performance. This is why actually faster and faster routers generally keep coming to the market to be able to actually mitigate the drop down in concurrent-based performance that happens. And this is where the actual 87U is extremely special. So if we were to compare it to this model right here, the 68U is very high performing router. It offers very good range, very good throughput, has USB 3 performance, has gigabit Ethernet, and a whole lot more that's packed in here. And the 87U is pretty equally packed in terms of we kind of measure spec to spec. Of course, this is a 4-stream based unit, and this is only a 3-stream based unit. But in all other parameters, it's pretty close, although this unit features what's referred to as hardware acceleration with the hardware NAT, while this one doesn't have a hardware-based NAT. Now, one really key difference, though, is going to be that the 87U features a dual-core based design implementation. The Quantana chipset has its own dedicated dual-core based processing cores. Now, the advantage of this is that means that the 5 gigahertz 802.11ac connectivity can perform optimally and independent of that of, let's say, the storage performance or the 2.4 gigahertz performance. This is really important because when you talk about concurrent-based storage performance, so your USB-based connectivity, when also still utilizing your wireless connectivity, it will be significantly improved compared to not only our current AC66 or AC68, but also actually any other current 802.11ac router on the market. It's not going to be just a marginal improvement, it will be a significant improvement in terms of the overall throughput and performance. In addition to that, we've also closely worked with Broadcom to actually enable a next generation SDK firmware that will even further improve USB 3 performance. In our testing and analysis, even with concurrent utilization of the 5 gigahertz 802.11ac based chipset, we were easily able to see over 50 megabytes read and write performance on NTFS storage-based volumes. And actually, in some testing, it was even quite a bit better than that. Overall, very impressive storage performance, especially if you're a user that's actually utilizing all these connections concurrently at a time. Now, if you're not actively utilizing them, of course the performance is even better, but that's really the other key advantage that we've seen, is that because of the way that the actual router is designed, where the Quantana based, the 5 gigahertz 802.11ac based chipset has its own dual core chips, and the Broadcom has its own dual core based chips as well, is that really you get an optimal pairing of performance that each one of them can run independently of each other to give you the best performance possible. No other router on the marketplace, even other routers that feature a dual core single based processor implementation, can match the overall performance that is offered by the 87U in this regard. And this is really important to overall understand, as this is one of the hallmark differentiation points between this router and any other routers that are out there on the marketplace right now. So with that, let's go ahead and continue to take a closer look at the actual connectivity that's offered on the 87U, and give you guys some more insight into how the storage connectivity is also going to be affected by our improved power design. So right here, we can take a look and we can see we've got this brand new ID that we have, so the industrial design for this router. It's very clean, it's got an angular look to it, it's kind of very stealthy. I think it overall it's got a really nice clean and look to it, and it does have a bit of a lattice finish, kind of in homage of some of our previous generation routers, but overall it has a flatter appearance. Now here on the front you've got some very conservative LED implementations that light up and let you know once you have activity for the router. Everything from the power to the actual 5 gigahertz, the 2.4 gigahertz. You then have correspondings for LEDs for the 4 gigabit Ethernet ports that are on the unit, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then you have your actual active internet-based connection, so the WAN connection, and then you've got a WPS to be able to verify if you're actually initializing a WPS synchronization for being able to easily enter in your password information. Now, in addition to that, if we take a look and we tilt the unit up a little bit, you're going to see that right here, you're going to have an LED button so that you can go ahead and turn off and on the LEDs. Here you've got another button for Wi-Fi so that you can go ahead and disable the Wi-Fi should you need to do that. And then over here you've actually got a rubber or kind of silicone cover, which covers a front USB 3 enabled port. And so this is great because with giving you a front USB 3 port, it's going to be a little bit easier for you to be able to go ahead and plug in different types of USB 3 enabled devices without having to reach over into the back, or, you know, kind of where you're blindly trying to connect and trying to figure out where it is. It's a little bit easier for you that if you quickly just kind of tilt it up, you pull that back, you can go ahead and insert it in there, and you're good to go. And as much as that might seem like a simple thing, it's actually quite complex to be able to design the unit in a way where we have to go ahead and lay the topology out of all the integrated components and minimize any type of proximity interference or influence from different components affecting performance, whether it's going to be for the USB 3 or whether it's going to be for the actual wireless implementation that we have on the router. So taking a look at the back, let's go ahead and see what we have going on there. Now, if we go ahead and turn the unit around, we can see that we've got a 4x4 based enabled router, meaning that we have 4 antennas. These are all removable antennas, and they can be flexibly adjusted. So as you can see right here, I can go ahead and move it up and down. I can tilt it back and forth. The unit itself, of course, supports VESA mounting, so you have the flexibility of being able to go ahead and mount it on a wall so that you can get the best signal range and throughput, as well as, of course, if you want to go to higher gain-based antennas, that's available to you, as these antennas are fully removable. So I can just go ahead and unscrew these, just go ahead and twist them off, and I am good to go. But overall, keep in mind that we have done an extensive amount of work to tune the antenna to this router specifically, and the power output settings, along with the overall attenuation verification. So in terms of throughput to signal attenuation, a number of other factors, that has all been really dialed in specifically for this router. So from right here, you can see that we've got the power connection. We have a power button. We have the red reset button, which is slightly recessed so you don't accidentally press it, but to go ahead and depress it, you will need something like a toothpick, maybe a bobby pin, something like a ballpoint pen, just something to be able to go ahead and depress inwards. Now from here, of course, you've got 4 gigabit Ethernet ports. Now we have also gone ahead and incorporated teaming functionality so that if you run these units in a bridge mode or use an EA-based adapter where the actual wireless throughput can be in excess of 950 megabits, maybe even exceed 1 gigabits, then you actually need faster than a single gigabit Ethernet connection to be able to have that level of performance. So that has gone ahead and already been factored in. And also keep in mind, in terms of the overall connectivity, this unit supports 2 levels of network acceleration. So we have actually level 1 and level 2. With level 2, we're completely bypassing any type of software implementation, and it's a pure hardware-based option, giving us the absolute fastest level of performance. So overall, when it comes to WAN and LAN-based performance, you're going to get really outstanding performance from this unit. Now moving over here, of course, we've got our WAN-based connection, so that's going to be for your internet. And then over there, we've got a WPS button so that you can go ahead and easily synchronize between a WPS-enabled client so that you don't have to manually type in passwords. And then lastly, we have an additional USB 2 port, whether you want to use that for USB attached storage, a multifunction printer, for a dongle, whether it's going to be for a smartphone or a different type of device. You're going to have a huge degree of flexibility in considering that you have both USB 2 and USB 3, along with the full range of connectivity that we've gone ahead and gone over. So with that, let's go ahead and keep diving a little bit more into this RT-87U. So continuing with this overview, another important point that we talk about here is going to be in relation to the USB power implementation. Now on many actually USB to SATA based adapters, they might look something along this lines where you can see right here, you've got the actual adapter, you can go ahead and connect to your storage device, and then you may have two cables, one cable that may be required for supplemental power. Now traditionally you wouldn't need to use this for USB 3 based devices because USB 3 should support sufficient power output, especially for 2.5-inch based drives, whether they're mechanical or whether they're SSD based. But what we've actually found interesting enough, and the competitive analysis of other products that are on the market, is that the power output capabilities of many routers is actually fairly low. And as such, it may actually require you to use both USB ports that are on that router to be able to correctly initialize this device. The disadvantage of that, of course, is that if you have two ports, you would expect maybe to be able to use both of them. Whether one would be used for the storage device and then another one for, let's say, like a multifunction printer, that may not actually be something that's available to you because of that limited power design. Now with Asus units, that's not an issue, and actually we have improved power-based design implementations to be able to specifically resolve against these type of issues. With the USB port that you can see right here, traditionally the USB port is going to be limited to 500 milliamps, and our design actually allows you to have up to 1500 milliamps of output power capability. So overall, much better for the interoperability and compatibility of storage devices. If we go ahead and move over here to the front and we take a look once again at our front USB 3 port that we have right there, the power output traditionally for this port would be 900 milliamps, and on our unit it's actually significantly higher at 1750, which once again is going to allow us to go ahead and connect devices such as this guy here without any issues and be able to optimally utilize it without any problems. And that's something that we've worked extensively on that requires special hardware-based design implementations. Now that overall though might cause you to think that actually our power consumption would also be higher than that of competitors, but actually overall compared to the current landscape of highest performing 811AC routers from competitors, we're actually consuming the lowest overall amperage and power consumption for our router. So not only do you get the best range, the best throughput, and the best storage performance, but you're also going to get it at the lowest power consumption numbers. And with our AC adapter also being smaller than that of all other competitors as well, which is definitely nice for you guys that are going to be considering the wall mounting capabilities. And if we go ahead and take a look right back here on the unit, you can see very easy to be able to go ahead and work with, and we've got more than enough venting to also be able to ensure that we have great airflow to this unit, helping to keep it nice and stable, especially over extended periods of operation. So with that, let's go ahead and keep moving this overview along. So here we are back with our RT-87U, outstanding router. When it comes to its overall performance, its feature set, and its compatibility. Now, compatibility is something that doesn't get talked about a lot of times when people talk about a router, but it's extremely important. As you can imagine, when you go ahead and deploy a router, there's a lot of different devices that it can be connecting to. 811N based devices, 811AC based devices. They all have different types of wireless controllers. They could be designed by Intel, they could be designed by Qualcomm, they could be designed by Broadcom, they could be designed by MediaTek, they could be designed by Realtek. There's a lot of companies. You may not even know who actually makes the wireless controller in the device that you're connecting to. But what your expectation is that it's going to work. Now, it's ultimately impossible at the end of the day to be able to run interoperability and compatibility on every single wireless adapter, under every single type of usage environment, under every single type of OS environment. As keep in mind that OS environments are becoming very diverse at this day and age, where you have everything from Android to Windows to OS X to Linux, and all of them have different ways that they engage and they offer functionality and compatibility for the wireless adapters that are installed in those corresponding devices. Now, with that being said, Asus has worked very, very hard along with Quantenna to be able to ensure really robust compatibility with a wide range of clients. In our internal testing, we've actually tested over 30 different types of actually wireless controller implementations and have it consistently working, providing great range and great throughput, not just at the top end of the spectrum, but even with entry-level solutions. I myself actually went through testing all our current range of 811AC wireless adapters, from our entry-level by one solution, the AC51, to the AC53, to the AC56, to our EA-N66 based wireless adapter, as well as our EA87, a new coming access point and 4x4 based client bridge adapter, which is optimally designed to work with the 811AC based router that we have right here. And all the way around, all the units worked in terms of not only holding a consistent communication throughput test, which I ran for minimum on any one of these units between 2 as much as 8 hours, and every unit at least passing a full 3-hour continuous transfer test, along with actually overall throughput and performance. Now, of course, some radios and some configurations are going to perform better than other. Take, for instance, we saw that generally the strongest performing 2x2 based chipset would come from our USB AC56 and Intel's 7260 AC wireless adapter. That being said, USB performance from the USB AC53 was still very, very good and offered very comparable performance to that of even superior to that than actually 3x3 based 811AIM based adapters. So all the way around, this was something that was great to see, that even in a new chipset you were seeing great compatibility and operability. And this is something that's important because as new chipsets come out, it's important to understand that really there's a lot of maturity and interoperability and compliance testing that occurs over time to be able to help to fine-tune and improve the compatibility. Even with our previous generation AC-based clients, it took some time to be able to continue to tune and improve upon the wide range of devices that these routers were connecting to be able to ensure an outstanding experience. And we've worked very diligently on this to be able to ensure that you get a great out-of-box experience. Now, that being said, how does that stack up in consideration, against other chipsets? Well, actually, interesting enough, on some other product that I've tested, I found that actually the interoperability and the performance that we saw with some other client adapters on other units that were using other chipsets were not as consistent. And so this is something that we feel that, while it's not a spec that you're going to see on the router, is something that definitely is going to be something that you want to consider and evaluate as part of your consideration for the unit in itself. Now, before we get into some of the next aspects, you do want to keep in mind that ultimately at the end of the day, there is no one router that kind of rules them all in terms of every single level of functionality or in terms of compatibility. Actually, in many situations, I recommend to users that if you have a huge amount of mixed environment devices, such as 811N and then also 811AC, I consider actually going with a high-performance 811N based router, which has a very high level of maturity in terms of its chipset and its firmware, and is really optimally tuned to work with a wide range of N-based devices. And then if you got AC devices, make sure to fix them with a dedicated 811AC based router. Now, some users ultimately don't want to go in that route, and they rather try to find a unit that can equally offer them, the best range, the best throughput, and the best compatibility. But there are limitations to what is realistically possible at times. That being said, we have worked very, very hard to ensure that you get a good level of interoperability when it comes down to mixing your devices, whether they're N-based clients and AC-based clients, 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, and so on and so forth. So all the way around, you can definitely feel confident that we've put in the time and effort to be able to ensure that we've tested a wide range of usage environments so that when you put it in your home, you can get a great experience. Now, last note with that in mind is that keep in mind that always you do want to consider that you may need to fine-tune a router to be able to ensure its absolute best performance. Every single wireless environment is unique. It's different from each other. You have different types of devices, whether it's everything from a multifunction printer to a Bluetooth-enabled headset to, microwaves, to other access points and any number of other wireless devices that all transmit signals on the RF or the radio frequency spectrum that can impact the overall performance and the connectivity of your wireless router. And in this respect, sometimes you have to put in a little bit of effort to manually set maybe the channel, or maybe go through a couple of other options and parameters to be able to fine-tune the performance and the consistency of the router. And that's ultimately due to the fact that not every environment is the same. Even though here at Asus we actually take a huge amount of time and effort to test not only in specialized RF clean environments with specialized chambers to be able to optimally test for max throughput and all types of other things, we also put it through heavy realistic workload environments in open area environments and test real world connectivity and performance, because at the end of the day, that's how you're going to be using the router in a real world environment. But not every environment is the same. And with that, make sure to keep it tuned here to the PCDIY website and YouTube channel, as well as our PCDIY website, pcdiy.asus.com, for more information over time to help you better know how to manage and tune and configure your network, hopefully, for the best performance, the best connection, and the best reliability. So with that, I want to go ahead and jump into a little bit more about performance. Now, I've got some performance numbers for you guys that we've gone ahead and run in actually one of our real world environments. And there's also some numbers that we have from our actual headquarters team that have been done actually in more optimal RF based chamber environments. Now, in my configuration, this was actually done from about 25 feet from the actual wireless access point, and actually my apartment, where there's actually a pretty noisy environment. I have actually I'd say about 20 to about 25 competing wireless signals that are all active in my wireless environment that affect that, along with, of course, the multitude of devices that I have within my apartment. So overall, the numbers that I'm giving you here, actually, I feel are pretty representative of what you could consider in a real-world environment at a reasonable distance. They could actually be even higher than this at a shorter distance, but I went ahead and shot for 25 feet so that we wouldn't go ahead and tie in, let's say, the more limited but still realistic performance that you might have generally from marketed numbers that are done at about 10 feet, which would generally be about the tightest range that you would have from a router to, let's say, a client without running into what's called proximity interference. While those numbers might be the best case numbers that would exist, and to a degree realistic of, let's say, you've got your router and then a desk, and then you're sitting at the desk with, let's say, the wireless-based connection, I wanted to go ahead and give something a little bit more representative of what might be, let's say, about the proximity of a normal length size room environment at about 25 feet. So first, we're going to go ahead and take a look at performance from our EA-N66, which is a 3-stream 802.11n wireless adapter. So from there, we're going to take a look at the 5 gigahertz performance, and we're going to overall take a look at what the peak or the max throughput that we had on this adapter was. And overall, the average was approximately around 200 megabits read and write performance, once again at about 25 feet for the 5 gigahertz base connection. Overall, very, very good performance from a 3x3 based N-based adapter. Next up, we're going to go ahead and take a look at USB AC51, which would be an entry-level by 1 based 811AC by wireless adapter. Now with this unit, as I noted, one of the great advantages that you have with this 4x4 based antenna based design is improved signal reception sensitivity, which can improve the performance that you're going to have even with entry-level client devices that you're going to have, such as either with a by 1 or by 2 base configuration. And with this unit, we saw still very, very healthy performance. On average, we were generally somewhere in about 150 to about 175 plus megabits for write performance, and for read performance, we were generally looking at in excess of 200 to about 250 megabits for read performance. So overall, some really impressive numbers from only a by 1 based 811AC wireless client solution. Now, when we go ahead and keep kicking it up here and we take a look at a higher performing solution, we can go ahead and move over to the USB AC53. The AC53 is going to be a 2x2 based solution, which would be fairly representative, actually, what a lot of notebooks are going to be that currently come implemented with an 811AC based chipset. Although I will note that users that are utilizing the Intel 7260, which we've also got hand validated with this unit, would even expect probably better numbers than these, as that controller offers very, very, very strong 811AC 5 gigahertz performance. So with the USB AC53, we were overall averaging generally at least 200 megabits for the write performance, but overall generally being in excess of about 250 megabits for the writing performance. And for the reading performance, we were generally always over 300 megabits in terms of the peak performance that was offered for reading. So overall, some really, really, really great numbers in that regard. Now, when we step over to, let's see, even a higher performing 2x2 based client solution, we're going to be taking a look at the USB AC56. With the USB AC56, it's incorporating even a higher gain based antenna, so giving us overall better reception and overall better performance and better throughput. And it's also based off a different chipset. With this unit, we had really, really great numbers that we were seeing. Even at that range of 25 feet and with the 2x2 based client, we were generally averaging over 400 megabits for read and write performance for especially smaller file transfer sizes that we were doing within our LAN speed tests. As we went to larger based file sizes, we were still getting very, very good write performance, generally in the vicinity of 400 megabits and greater, and the reading performance dropping down to about 260, 250 megabits plus in terms of the overall read and write performance. So overall, very good numbers there. Now, rounding things out, of course, we've got even better performance that was offered in a by 3 base solution, but we wanted to take a look at one more 2x2 base solution, which is actually with this notebook here, which is an internal Broadcom based 2x2 base solution. So let's go ahead and take a look at our numbers there. So with this unit, we were seeing was really great numbers, actually even generally better performance than what we're seeing with our USB AC56. And this unit at its peak level of performance was offering us about 400 megabits almost on the write performance, and on the read performance we were generally averaging between about 550 to upwards of 600 megabits in terms of the max overall read and write performance. And then if we were to move up to the PC-AC68, PC-AC68 was offering pure monstrous numbers, easily over actually 650 megabits read and write performance. Actually, in some cases, we were approaching almost 900 megabits in terms of the read and write performance. So really awesome performance all the way around. The other important thing is that actually in real world testing, we went ahead and ran concurrent based load testing on the unit in multiple actually scenarios, both on 4 hour periods as well as 8 hour periods, and in both situations the entire actually stability was maintained through the entire concurrent loading and transferring from the client-based device to the router. This actually occurred from one single USB AC56 in connection to the unit, as well as a secondary base configuration that had a USB AC56 in connection to the router, along with a PC AC68, with both units concurrently hitting the router and being stress tested for an extended period of time. And under both situations, we had no issues in terms of them maintaining that connection for either a 4 hour period or an 8 hour period. Now, of course, as I noted earlier, environments can impact the overall functionality of a router in a wide range of ways, and that can also include the actual signal dropping out. But in our overall connectivity and in our environment that we tested in, we had great experience overall in terms of that. And lastly, in terms of the range was fantastic. You know, about the limits that we went ahead and tested up to in our environment. As we noted, a headquarters team has gone ahead and gone over 5,000 square feet. In our testing, if we just go ahead and from peak length, we were taking a look at over about 325 to 350 feet in terms of the overall distance, and still actually having a solid usable connection that we could use from streaming and browsing and transferring files. So overall, very healthy range, fantastic throughput, and overall great wireless connectivity when it comes to the experience that can be had with the client solutions when paired up with an 87U. Okay, so next up, we're going to go ahead and talk a bit more about Asus's WRT firmware. The WRT firmware is really a key component of any Asus router, as the firmware really offers an unmatched level of functionality and flexibility at the different types of functions that you have available to you in the router. Without really this firmware in place, one, we wouldn't have that great interoperability, compatibility, and performance, but as well as the rich functionality that a lot of users have come to expect from Asus routers. So what have we gone ahead and incorporated new for this generation? Well, we're actually going to go ahead and show you with a full video overview that we have for the WRT firmware. In that video overview, you'll actually see every single portion of the WRT firmware, so you can get an idea of how things are laid out, some of the new UI elements that have also been introduced. Here, we're just going to go ahead and give you guys some of the quick new functions that have gone ahead and been introduced. First and foremost, we still maintain, of course, the easy and CD-free or software installation-free setup of the 87U, meaning that you can go ahead and quickly and easily go ahead and connect to the unit just by go ahead and either connecting to the wireless setup signal, or by connecting an Ethernet cable to then your corresponding device and being able to go ahead and get online in as little as about 30 seconds. Now, outside of that, the actual network map that we utilize to reference the initial kind of information that you see on your router has gone ahead and been updated with easy references to USB 3 or USB 2 based devices. We've gone ahead and incorporated CPU utilization as well as RAM utilization information, as well as signal client monitoring for the actual connected devices, allowing you to know not only the wide range of wired and wireless devices that are connected, but their associated signals. So this is a very rich level of detailing that can immediately be seen in the first initial portion of the network map. Now, in addition to that, we didn't stop there. Of course, all the advanced controls you would expect to be part of Asus's WRT firmware for you power users out there that want to be able to tweak and tune and maximize all the parameters of how the wireless transmission works on the router are still available to you under the professional wireless portions of the WRT firmware. Now, in addition to this, we've also gone ahead and expanded on new features of pre-existing features such as VPN. For this generation, we've gone ahead and incorporated even more VPN support to allow for more VPN clients to be supported. So for you users that are looking for the absolute best VPN-based support built into routers, Asus is once again taking the lead in this category. Now, outside of that, we've also worked closely with Trend Micro that for this generation incorporate a wide range of Trend Micro's intellectual property to be able to advance a lot of the actual security aspects of how a router is configured. For many users, they may not always be conscientious of a lot of the different exploits or different ports or different parameters of operation that could potentially leave you exposed to intrusion or to malicious attacks or to hacking or to a number of different kind of networking exploits that are be out there. Now, with as simple as a click of a button, you can go ahead and route a status scan and find out actually what kind of exploits are currently enabled on the router and how you can go ahead and secure those, and once again as simple as a click of a button. In addition to that, we have other advanced AI protection technologies that are built in to be able to safeguard you against a lot of the different types of exploits that are out there. Now, in addition to that, we've also gone ahead and incorporated an entirely new QoS management system. Quality of service, for you guys that don't know what it is it's a very advanced feature that allows users to go ahead and define essentially prioritization scales for different types of services that are being connected to the router, and being able to ensure that those services and those connections essentially get the best bandwidth to be able to get the best experience. As an example, as it could be for a gamer, you want to be able to ensure that that upstream traffic is be able to be prioritized so you get that best latency performance, you get the lowest ping, and you overall get the best in-game experience. If you're a heavy streamer and you're watching Netflix or Hulu, you're streaming YouTube, whatever it might be, and you want to be able to make sure you get the best performance, that's another option. If you're a heavy file sharer or downloader of content, then you can also go ahead and do that. We've got ahead and enabled a very advanced, intelligent, adaptive QoS mechanism that can work per client and allows it to go ahead and allocate the optimal amount of resources to each one of those clients so that you get the best performance. In addition to that, monitoring has been taken to a whole nother level, allowing you to have per client monitoring on not only the amount of bandwidth that's utilized, but the applications that are utilizing those bandwidth. Now, we also still maintain legacy-based implementations such as our traffic monitoring and traditional QoS for users that want that per client and per service-based prioritization, where they can go ahead and manually input all that information. Now, rounding things out, of course, we're still keeping classic functions that we've gone ahead and already introduced, such as OSX support with Time Machine for users that are looking for Time Machine-based backup capability. FaceTime support has also been incorporated in the firmware and is still present, as well as a wide range of other functions that are in here, such as FTP, Download Master for offline downloading capability to attach-based storage devices, and also, of course, our full AI Cloud set of features and functionality. For users that aren't familiar with AI Cloud, it is a complete software set in terms of an application that you can load onto a smartphone or a tablet to be able to allow you to go ahead and stream, sync, or share the content that you have, not only locally attached to the router, but also even actually that is stored on local area network computers on your home network. This is great because all of a sudden you could go ahead and reach out and wake up a sleeping desktop that's connected to your network and that has a shared file directory, and you could go ahead and pull files out even without ever having those files be uploaded to the cloud. The level of flexibility and functionality that you now have with the unit that supports AI Cloud is really unmatched when you compare that against other products that exist in the marketplace. In addition to that, when you also incorporate a lot of the new multimedia functionality that we're introducing within the AI Cloud application and what's being integrated into the AI Cloud firmware, it's really an awesome level of feature set that's being incorporated that comes along with the router. Now, for some of you guys that might have also been utilizing AI Cloud in the past, you'll be excited to know that we've even integrated support for other web storage-based services outside of Asus Web Storage, such as Dropbox, and you also even have the capability to have router-to-router syncing, where if you have, let's say, a router in your home environment and then another one in your network environment, and they're both actually utilizing our AI Cloud-based technologies, they can go ahead and stream and share files directly to each other. So a really awesome level of functionality that's afforded to you within the Asus WRT firmware. And that's really actually just some of it. There's actually a whole lot more that's been incorporated into the feature set and the functionality that's offered within the router and that Asus WRT firmware, and will continue to be overhauled. We have even more features and functions that we have planned or rolled out over a period of time as we incorporate those through our firmware updates. And all you're going to have to do is go to support.asus.com over time to be able to download those latest updates to be able to even give you better performance, better interoperability, and better functionality. So wrapping up that we've talked about the Asus WRT firmware, we want to go ahead and spotlight an upcoming product that will be optimally paired to work in conjunction with the RT-87U. This will be the EA87. The EA87 essentially is a client or access point base unit. So this could be used in quite a number of different configurations. One, of course, you could use it to be able to create just an 811AC signal, just like you would with a router, although it would be a little bit lower performing than, of course, an 87U. Optimally, the way this unit would work would be in a client-based configuration or in an access point configuration, then providing network connectivity for LAN devices that would connect to it. So in a client-based configuration, as you can see, this unit is optimally paired for the 87U in that it supports 4 transmit and 4 receive base antennas. And if we go ahead and turn the unit around, you can see right there that it's got 5 Ethernet ports. So if this unit's gone ahead and receiving the wireless signal from the 87U, we'd then be able to go ahead and provide that actual connection to the local area network as well as to the internet with those 5 connections from the EA87. And you could go ahead and imagine one going out to your television, another one going out to your game console, another one going out to your receiver, another one going out to your media receiver, or so on and so forth. So a great deal of flexibility that's afforded to you with the upcoming EA87 high performance based unit. And just like the 87U, this unit will be supported for multi-user MIMO. Once that firmware has gone ahead and been finalized, it will be released and be available at support.asus.com. So with that, let's go ahead and close things out. So wrapping things up, we've talked about a lot of information when it comes to the Asus 87U and 87R. And we've talked about pretty much everything ranging from the design, the specifications, the feature functionality of what the router has to offer. And as you can see, this unit is really standing out as a true flagship next generation 811AC router, and is really targeted at users that are looking for the absolute best performance, whether it's going to be looking for the furthest range, the fastest throughput, the best storage performance, or the most feature complete firmware. The 87U is really going to be the best choice for you. Now, where does this sit in relation to you as a user? Well, you have to ask yourself, what's the type of usage model that you're looking for? If you're somebody that's a heavy HD high bitrate based streamer, this is going to be a perfect choice. For me myself, I archive all my Blu-ray media directly to a NAS based storage unit, and I stream that out to all types of devices throughout my home. And actually I focus predominantly on only 5 gigahertz connectivity, and if I can, all those devices are only working on 811AC. This is a perfect type of choice for me to have not only that best throughput, but that best range in that type of environment. If you're looking for that high bit rate and that high performance that you get with that 5 gigahertz 811AC based connection, this is a perfect choice for you. If you're somebody that also uses a heavy level of wireless connectivity but doesn't want to compromise necessarily on the experience that you would only have traditionally on a LAN based network, then this is also a benefit to you. Imagine being able to do full system backups from one system to another system wirelessly and have it actually occur in a reasonable amount of time. This is something that can be really awesome. If you've got great upload performance and you're consistently putting up a lot of information up there to whether it's YouTube, whether it's Flickr, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Dropbox, having that great high performance capability on your wireless connection, not really compromising on your upload experience, is another big plus. Fiber users out there are users that are utilizing cable connections that have very high internet based signals and want to be able to not compromise on that signal, especially at further ranges. This is another perfect unit for you. And of course, gamers that are looking for that absolute best performance when it comes to the ping and latency performance, this is a perfect router for you guys, especially with a lot of the advanced quality of service options, where even as other users are heavily utilizing the network, you can always ensure the best performance possible. When you tie that all together in with the specialized and exclusive hardware-based designs that the unit has to offer, as well as the continual fine-tuning and performance enhancements that are going to be coming in future firmware updates, you can really see where the 87U stands apart from other high-performance 811AC routers that are on the marketplace. And in this respect, once again, no other router is going to be offering the range, throughput, or storage performance, as well as the complete feature set that's enabled in the firmware that the 87U has to offer. Now, hopefully you guys have found a lot of information here useful and relevant to you. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or feedback, I'd love to see them here on the page. Feel free to go ahead and drop them into the comment section. I'd also recommend make sure to check out pcdiy.asus.com. That's pcdiy.asus.com. That is the sister website to this YouTube channel where we go ahead and write about a lot of additional content, including more information about the RT-87U and different aspects of its design, features, functionality, performance, and more information as firmware updates come out will be also posted to that site. And it's also a great way to also ask additional questions if you're not asking them here on the YouTube channel. Now, if you guys took time out of your day to check out the video, then I sincerely appreciate it, and I thank you for taking time. As always, if you can make sure to like, favorite, thumbs up, share, and definitely subscribe, it is always appreciated. So with that, as always, take care, take it easy, and enjoy the rest of your day.